Hello, dear listener. We are now going to talk about what seems like one miniature in the form of a Lord of Pox for the Death Guard, but it's a little more than that because they do also in this article talk about the roadmap for the future of 40k, the immediate to mid-term future. So we're going to chat through that and have a natter about what that potentially represents. Isn't that right, Phil?
Yes.
Absolutely. What a treat. All right, well, nowhere to start but the beginning, and that is with our Lord of Pox, the new Death Guard miniature, which, intriguingly to me, looks like it's actually taken quite a few design cues from the Outland, nomad-y kind of characters in terms of some of its aesthetics. Like, it seems to have leaned into that kind of rudimentary respirator and some of those more insectile qualities. I think it's definitely, like, taken a lot almost from that kind of aesthetic, especially with all the, I suppose I want to call it stowage, but that's not right in this terminology, but all the baggage and things.
It does look like a backpack. Yeah, he does look like a wandering nomad. And it's got, a bit of an Ash Waste vibe to it, which sort of feels a bit odd from an army perspective or lore. It'll be interesting to know what he's up to. But as a standalone model with zero context, because I've not read the article, it looks amazing. I really like it.
Yeah, I think, well, again, like, you can completely get behind the idea, because, again, a lot of the time in the fiction of Warhammer 40,000, when not dealing with the grandiose battles, there's lots of instances where lone warriors, especially traitor marines, kind of walk the galaxy and traverse the galaxy, alone, effectively. There's a lot of these kind of like lone, I won't say heroes in this instance, but lone characters that, maneuver throughout the universe and cause all sorts of problems. I remember there was always a lovely short story about like one Khorne berserker taking on like a tank legion, or not like a tank legion, but like a load of guard tanks, and they're like, oh, it's one world eater, oh dear, and it proceeds to obviously carve its way through. So the idea of this guy kind of roaming and carrying lots of stuff around with him and being this kind of nomadic kind of hero, at least from a sort of design aesthetic, looks really cool.
Yeah, I just quickly read it. Basically, he creates loads of viruses in his lungs, and they get spewed out via the turbines, the turbines on his backpack, basically. So he's spewing
the turbines.
The turbines, yes,
the turbines,
not the turbines. Yes.
No, that would be a very weird thing to have spewing out.
So that makes perfect sense. It all looks logical. It explains like why he's got the kind of custom gas mask on his face. And it sort of all makes sense. He's still got slightly shabby chic nomadic vibe with all the sort of torn ragged cloth, which I guess you do see some on some Death Guard, but not many.
Not really. I mean, it's not that prevalent. I think as well, like the way they've painted this mini is very at odds with kind of like the standard kind of approach. It definitely has more of this kind of tattered, dirty quality to it. They've done a lot more weathering. It's not like clean, pristine armor. And the sword, especially the rust details.
Oh yeah,
it's a very, very good looking paint job. I think this is one of those instances where whomever it was that they gave this to clearly flexed a lot of their creative flair and a lot of their kind of more kind of advanced weathering techniques, because the results are stunning. I genuinely think this is a near perfect Death Guard mini. I think it's stunning. I think a lot of Death Guard players, even within like the Heresy scene, would be looking at this and go, "Oh, I could come up with a reason of putting this in that army," because it's really cool. Like I just think the pose, the armor, the design, everything about it is awesome. I love it. I think it's awesome. I just think it's a very, very cool movie.
And I think the thing I've always really liked about Death Guard is, yes, they overly put on like too much sort of bulging pus and tentacles, which I don't like, but this one doesn't have really any of that on it. But the armor is like very classic Heresy armor, with the exception of like the tentacles bursting out and stuff like that. And it works really well. And what they've done here is they've sort of boiled down the quintessential elements of a Death Guard mini, but then they've actually taken it and given you something new and different, where they've gone, cool, he's going to have an absolutely giant backpack that's going to have some spinning fans on, and he's going to look a bit more nomadic. And turbines. I don't want to say it in case I get it wrong there. And he's got an absolutely giant rusted sword as well. And it's like, that's completely, you know, out of left field, but it sort of works. It's very cool. It's a great sort of standalone mini. Whereas I guess, you know, you wouldn't necessarily see that right away from something like Emperor's Children, because they're trying to establish the design elements across the army before they can then maybe go off on sort of wild tangents. But yeah, this one feels like it would still fit in while still being, you know, unique to Death Guard. So yeah. I sort of love this one.
And to be clear, I don't think every Death Guard mini that they've done has been like a 10 out of 10. I think Death Guard have a lot of great minis. I think it's one of the better ranges. I think most of the Death Guard stuff is really good, but they definitely have some misses. But yeah, this isn't one of them. I think here's the thing though, right? If you're a Death Guard player, and I'm not really a Death Guard player, although I do own a Death Guard army. If you're a Death Guard player, is this what you wanted? Is this what you needed? Like another foot hero who, by all accounts, will just get bolted onto Plague Marines. It's like, was this what your army needed? Because at the moment, it feels to me like you've already got like 6 or 7 foot heroes in power armor, right? Like you got like the Lord, the geezer with the bell on his head, the surgeon, the guy with the flamers. Like you got loads of these, right? Did they need another one? And are Death Guard players being a little bit kind of underserviced with this kind of stuff? Because it feels like for Death Guard, the last thing they needed really was another hero on foot with a sword and a pistol.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of the same thing with a lot of the armies when they just give them a character. It's like Gene Stealer Cole, Admech. It's like, do you need sort of standalone single miniatures or characters? Probably not, but it's easier to do that than a whole brand new unit. And, you know, at what point do you go, these armies should be complete and that they don't need anything else? And, you know...
They can't ever stop doing stuff though, Phil. That's the problem. They can't just turn around to us and go, you know what? Death Guard are pretty good as they are. We don't need to add anything anymore because, you know, what would that say? Like it's just not. It's not the done thing, is it?
Feature complete. That's all it needs to be. They don't need it, but they obviously want to sell stuff. So I do get the argument. And here's the thing: even as a fan of an army, you want to collect it, and you'd be like, "Oh, but I would just love it if I could get the things that could fly." Because my army doesn't have that. And it's like, yes, that's the point. It's the archetype of your army is that you don't have that. But it still doesn't stop me from wanting those things. So I completely get it from the other side of the fence as well.
I do feel like, though, like Death Guard, I think a lot of Death Guard's problems could be fixed if they, in their new book, when it comes around, they come up with ways of making stuff good again. And they will do that, hopefully, you know, because Blightlord Terminators have been pretty consistently terrible throughout this edition, but for a while. The Death Shroud are pretty good, but are they good enough? Poxwalkers are like, whatever. You know, there's just things that they can do to make this stuff more interesting. I think from a range perspective, they've got opportunities to do interesting things with it if they just come up with a fun set of mechanics. And obviously Death Guard aren't bad at the moment because they've got like all the kind of weird debuffs and other things they do. So mechanically they've got options, but yeah, that was just my one gripe with it. I was like, okay, cool, yeah. And it's like with Fire Slayers and AOS. Oh, another hero on foot. What a treat. That is indistinguishable from all the other heroes on foot. Wicked. Except this guy is cool and I like him a lot, and I'm happy to live in a world where this exists rather than one where it doesn't, but at the same time I'm like, okay, cool guys, but like, what are we doing here? Like, what's the vibe?
Yeah, I mean, discounting Death Guard, but talking on the same topic slightly off tangent, would you rather a world where rather than just getting new units, that instead you just got alternative sculpts for stuff.
That would be my preference. That was the world of old, Phil. We always used to get it where, but then people used to get angry, didn't they, for a while? Because they were like, oh, no, a Space Marine Lieutenant. But to me, it was like...
That went a bit over the top. But at the same time, having another variant mini of a character, just, maybe the first one wasn't as great. Maybe they can do another one.
Yeah. I mean, they haven't really got a Lord on Foot mini outside of the one that was... released as part of the Kill Team box set recent, or the Space Marine Heroes range. And in fact, I don't even know if that Lord is in there. But again, it's like, that's the thing with it. It's like, yeah, and also they're in this weird situation now where the Malefic spellcaster geezer is on like a 32mm base rather than a 40mm base because of just how it was shipped originally, and then so it's sort of staying on that base size, even though really it probably needs to kind of scale up. So yeah, like maybe they could have given us another Sorcerer sculpt. Maybe they could have given us an Icon Bearer sculpt, because that's kind of cool, like the banners and Icon Bearers. There could have been other things. Yeah, I agree. I would prefer... I mean, look, here's the thing. This sculpt is cool, but you could have just said, it's a Lord. Whatever. Move on. It's like... Yeah.
I was going to say, are there Death Guard... I'm sure there are Death Guard cultists.
They're Poxwalkers, and there are Death Guard cultists are a choice, but they don't have miniatures for them.
So that's what they're missing, then. I appreciate that everyone has their own demonic thing, like the Poxwalkers or Zangors. But yeah, a faction-specific cultist like the Jackals, I think, would be a good addition if we were to give them something new. But I think, maybe alternative minis is the way to grow the range without growing the data sheets. And that should be the 11th edition motto.
Yeah. That's it. More minis, but...
More minis, but the same old stuff.
Same old stuff. But that becomes a point, though, doesn't it? Where it's like, from a game design perspective, how much more stuff do you need? Because now you're looking at this situation where it's like, because it becomes really weird, because I've tried to build Death Guard lists, and I look at certain characters that I own, and I'm just like, oh, God, I've got to come up with all these... I've got to put all these flipping Plague Marine units in just to justify them, and Death Guard have a unique rule where lots of different types of characters can join one Death Guard unit, almost as a sort of admittance of, all right, we mucked that up.
Because we've got so many characters.
Yeah, you just chuck them in. Anyway, on the horizon of things coming down the pipeline, we have ourselves a series of books that are coming next. So we know that the World Eaters are coming next, as are the Death Guard and the Thousand Suns. So we are just rolling into that chaos period.
Have you noticed the one thing that's missing?
Well, I was going to say, where did the Imperial Knights go?
Exactly. It's just vanished into thin air. And maybe that's because they were like, well, maybe they brought forwards the Emperor's Children, because I thought we weren't going to see them till like the end of the year or something originally. Like going back to last year, I didn't think we would get Emperor's Children quite so soon. So that's really impressive. So it feels like maybe they bumped them up instead of Imperial Knights. Maybe it's a tax year thing, and they're just like, before April or whenever the tax year ends, they're like, we got to put out a big hit, bump up the numbers, and Emperor's Children will do that, whereas Imperial Knights wouldn't. And, maybe for whatever reason they prioritised that. But...
Well, I mean, this is the thing, right? Let's be honest. If we're talking about business things, AOS 4 probably didn't hit as hard as they wanted it to, even though I think it's an amazing game. But they were giving away hundreds of thousands of copies of Skaven Tide to anyone who would, look at them nicely. And ultimately that says that they probably didn't do as well as they wanted for it. Because all three of the things in the now are big hitters. That Eldari release is massive. That Astra Militarum release, the Death Corps Krieg, massive. And Emperor's Children, massive. They're three huge releases that should, in theory, print them some money. So, yeah, I think ultimately it makes sense that your theory around financial years probably tracks with reality.
Maybe.
But then Imperial Knights have always been a very popular range, but the problem is with Imperial Knights are most people who are into Imperial Knights already own an extensive range of them. How many people were really going to start Imperial Knights? And then also how many people will get, what could they possibly have released for Imperial Knights that would make you want to expand that range? So yeah, I think it's probably just one of those businessy business things. And then obviously starting a new financial year, you may as well trickle out all the Chaos Space Marine books because I guess it follows the theme, but also it just gets that stuff out of the way. And then you can also pull off the plaster that is, by the way, everyone, no Chaos Demon Codex this edition. See ya! That kind of thing. Which is heavily speculated by us and others to be what they're doing. On the horizon, obviously we've got Grey Knights. Will we see a range refresh for Grey Knights? I doubt it.
No, I think it's due, but maybe not this year. Maybe next edition or something. It'd be great if it was, but yeah.
Can we say that, right? They're not going to range. They've already done World Eaters, right? So they get like a token character. Death Guard, we already know, have got their token character. Thousand Suns will get their token character. So really, actually, when you look at the 4 images of what's on the horizon, Grey Knights are a good contender for a range refresh, given where they're at.
Yes. So the other images we have, there's Black Templars. There's what I assume is Imperial Knights, but sorry, Chaos Knights, and then there's a Salamander. So are we getting an actual Salamander supplement?
I mean,
is that speculation?
I mean, it seems to be the way it's going. To be honest with you, I think it's a bit crazy that we're getting a Salamander supplement before we're getting Space Wolves, but at the same time, it's not shocking, I suppose. Yeah, I don't know. Has there been much sort of online rumour, speculation around this? People just been going, because I haven't really paid attention. Is people going, oh, that's weird, salamanders. There's usually some person on the internet who's an expert who says things that I hear, but I hadn't really...
No, not really. I mean, maybe they're going to do a new character or redo an old one from the past and upgrade him into Primaris form. I don't know. So, yeah, I've not really heard anything. It's definitely interesting. But to be honest, it does make sense that, yes, you're prioritising things like Blood Angels and other first founding chapters like Space Wolves, but it sort of makes sense that you make supplements for all of the first founding chapters. They've done it in previous editions. They did it last in, what was it, 9th edition, or was it 8th edition that rolled into 9th edition?
Rolled into 9th, yeah.
So it's like they have done it before. It sort of makes sense from a gaming and marketing sales point of view, like big up all the chapters and, give us a supplement with a bunch of characters and flesh them out. They could be more akin to how well supported Ultramarines are. Ultramarines have got, obviously you've got the Primarch, but you've also got a bunch of cool characters as well, and a couple of unique units. They could do that for all the others as well. So maybe that's what we're slowly start to see. And then they're not just bundled in with a generic codex. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, to go businessy business with it, I think you're right in so much as Games Workshop's probably just going, 2025, we've not got 40k, we've not got even AOS. AOS maybe didn't hit as well as we wanted to, speculating for sure. Heresy, fine, but specialist game and has a potentially limited market, even though it's Space Marines. Old World is doing good things, but that's just going to keep going and going. Blood Bowl, etc., etc. We need more Marine releases, so let's just start getting in the habit of supporting those things. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, if we do live in a reality where Ultramarines are a fully fleshed out thing in and of themselves, Salamanders, Iron Hands, all the various variables, Raven Guard, etc., it's just amazing for GW, isn't it? Because they can just keep every now and again going, here's a new Marine thing, and nothing quite sells like Marines. So, yeah, I get it. I absolutely get it. It's a bit of a sort of tonal shift or a bit of a change of behaviour, but ultimately not completely at odds with what they've done.
No, it's not out of the blue for what they've done historically in older editions, but it is relatively a new thing for this edition because they didn't do it last edition either. So, yeah.
I'll call it now. Salamanders are where they release Thunderhammer, Storm Shield, or Assault Terminators.
Yeah, it could be a thing. Yeah.
Yeah, given that they, were quite fond of Thunderhammer Storm Shields back in the day, and maybe they'll do an upgrade kit that creates like the Salamander variant of it. But yeah, look, if they give us a new Grey Knight range, I mean that's gonna do well. Like Grey Knights are money. People love them. They're a really cool concept and range, like super elite soldiers. Wicked. Love them. Psychics, demons. Beautiful. Grey Knights are 2 thumbs up. They're gonna, and as long as the sculpts aren't, a miss, which hopefully they won't be. I think Grey Knights can go far. Salamanders again, cool. Black Templars will get another on-foot hero, which will be underwhelming, unless of course it's a new sculpt for an old thing, which I quite like. A new Emperor's Champion mini, maybe, or maybe a new Chaplain sculpt would be good, like a proper Black Templars Chaplain that's not just Grimaldus. That would be wicked. But we'll wait and see. And look, Chaos Knights will be whatever they are. I'd be intrigued to see what they come up with for Chaos Knights. An ever so slightly more demonic Chaos Knight. Not that they've not already kind of gone that way anyway, but yeah. On the whole, it's interesting to see what's coming down the pipeline. But yeah, my speculation is Grey Knights will probably be a range refresh if any of these are up for it. And it makes sense because it would do well. But yeah, interesting to see what's on the horizon. 40k is, an exciting time.
It's a lot of codexes to review.
Oh my God. Like, I was thinking about it, because again, I think they're going to have to do 3 every quarter, right? Like, it's going to be 1 a month till the end of the year.
Yeah.
At some point, they're going to have to do multiple in a month, really. Because, flipping heck. It's going to be heavy.
Yeah.
All right, well, anyway. Thanks for that. Hope you enjoyed it. Transitional noise.